Hello, Internet. It is Mike Morrell, Morel. I am an author. You can check out my stuff on Blurb and WordPress and Amazon down below. It's all free. So, my book on Blurb, it's a free preview. You can look at the whole book. You don't have to pay a dime. If you want a paperback version or a PDF version, those are available. My book, my short stories, and my poetry are all available for free, and I updated my website so it's actually navigable now. So you should probably take a look and see. That's kind of what I'm moving towards career-wise. I'm tired of working in menial professions, so I'm devoting a lot of time towards work. And my cancer is dealt with, my beard is back, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. So, disclaimer, I am not a mental health professional. Everything I talk about is anecdotal and conjectural, and this video is not comprehensive or a supplement to therapy. With that said, it's another video about schizoid personality disorder. And if you're subscribed to me, you know that I'm diagnosed with schizoid personality disorder and autism spectrum disorder. I have been diagnosed for about 5 years, but I've been struggling with schizoid personality disorder specifically for about 2 decades. I have been struggling and thinking and contemplating this video for a long time because this video is about what I actually do to deal with these problems. I complained about a lot about these problems, and I talked about peripheral elements and what I think about these problems, but I haven't really delved deep into what I do specifically to do that. So I took some time off and I lived my life a little bit more and I collected my ideas, and now I'm going to make it. So what am I talking about? Briefly, I have other videos about schizoid personality disorder if you want to check those out. There's plenty of resources online about schizoid personality. But if you're a schizoid, basically it means that you're prone to being solitary, you don't take much interest in the world, you have little enthusiasm, and sometimes you can be perceived as cold or detached or flat and things like that. So what do I specifically do to improve my problems related to being solitary, bored, and disengaged? I do not want to give the impression as though I figured everything out. I have not figured everything out. My life behind the scenes, I don't talk about my personal life that much, but it's not 100% put together. It is a hell of a lot better than it used to be, but I do not know everything. So I just want to say that. So the first thing, relationships. Pretty much everything I'm going to talk about boils down to two things: caring in the first place and breaking down your problems into manageable goals that you approach every day. So, relationships. It's surprisingly difficult for people with personality disorder. They're complex. People are complex. We're averse to them. We don't like that complexity. We don't want to be intimate with other people. We don't want other people to know that anything about us, so that we exist in the first place. We expend tremendous amounts of effort to be a shadow that moves through the world that nobody knows. And that's a comfort thing for us. I'm not going to go into details, but it's just the default mode of living for these kind of people. So another thing I'm going to say is that if you do not perceive yourself as having problems with relationships and boredom and detachment and that kind of stuff and the things I'm talking about, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? I will always be someone who says that if it works for you, don't fix it too hard, right? Just live your life, be the person that you are. I happen to be someone that is a very proactive person, and I try and approach my goals. I have goals in the first place, care about them, and approach them. So that's all I'm trying to share. If you don't want to be around people, it's 2026. You don't have to be around people. There's lots of things you could do. I might make a video about how, to the degree that I go to avoiding people, and tips and tricks as to how to be away from other people. But relationships are very difficult to initiate and maintain for schizoids. But a long time ago, I was totally friendless. I've gone through cycles of being friendless. I've gone through cycles of not talking to my family. And for over a long period of time of very purposeful work and therapy and medication and putting myself together, I have come to realize that not only can I maintain relationships, but I really do reap benefits from it. That I do have a couple of friends now, and I'll actually talk about something. I made a video about my ex-girlfriend. I had a girlfriend for about 7 years. It was a very, very tumultuous relationship. And we broke up, and I didn't talk to her for about a year. I decided I wanted to be alone during my cancer treatment and focus on myself. So I recently recontacted her, and we are now friends again. And we hang out regularly and talk regularly. And it was a beautiful afternoon that we shared where we cried together. And we hung out and we caught up, and it's this beautiful thing that I get to enjoy, even though it was a tremendous source of stress and hurt and pain for me. I decided that I was going to turn it into something that was useful, and it worked. So I just want to tell you that relationships, although you might be averse to them, although they might be confusing, although you might be honestly inept at people, there are ways to get better at it. You just have to care in the first place and break down your problems into meaningful, small things that you can manage every day. None of this would have been possible in the first place if I did not accept those two things. That I wanted relationships, I wanted to be around people, but I didn't know how, so I figured out how. And I was going to plan this video to deviate and to tell different little things and things like that and give tips, but I'm starting to, now that I'm making it, I realize that that's going to spawn other videos in the future, so I'm going to stick closer to the script. So it is something that is, God, it's just hard. People are so hard, and it's so hard when you're young because you don't know and you feel trapped and you feel inept and you feel like you don't have what it takes to be an adult and that you're never going to get over these problems. But if you care in the first place and you can admit to yourself that you care in the first place, there you go. So, on to the second thing, being content with doing nothing. This is very foreign to people. And most people fill their lives with their own interests, but schizoids are people that are prone to not doing anything. And I've always admitted to myself that I'm a low energy person. So the first thing, and that's very clearly a constitutional thing with me, like with ADHD, I believe that I have cognitive disengagement syndrome, if you've ever heard of that. And the first thing that I would like to mention is just a tip, and it seems boring, but it's very, very important to just take care of your body and mind. Don't eat too much, drink water, sleep enough, exercise, manage your stress, stay sober. With me, I'm an alcoholic. I smoked marijuana for many years. I went through cancer because of these things. I'm not perfect. But it is true that my life is much better now that I safeguard my own health. So if you prioritize these things, you will find that you have more available energy to do things. But what if you're schizoid and you do take care of yourself and you still don't want to do anything? This is another surprising difficulty. And it's just this feeling of not being very interested in living your life. It's not necessarily suicidal, although sometimes that can be a problem. Not particularly with me, but this contentment with being directionless is something that many schizoids deal with. And it's odd to people because you just don't, you're content with just doing nothing. You don't have a lot of available energy and you don't have a lot of interest in other things. With me, with my autism, my interests are restricted as well. So I found myself having, there's nothing wrong with living a simple life, but having a small number of goals. I wanted to create, I wanted to travel, I wanted to learn, I want to do things. But giving zero fucks in the first place is so difficult to deal with. It's difficult to break through. But I don't want to go back to being someone who has to fill a tremendous amount of time, because even if you work for 40 plus hours a week, you might have 2 hours to yourself in the morning and 6 hours to yourself at night, and the whole weekend to fill, and no friends and don't talk to family members. Eventually you find yourself just being bored. It's like, God, I'm stuck here again. I just wish that I had something to do. So my suggestion would be to take an inventory of your interests. I write them down. Actually, one thing that I did do when I was really schizoid is that I listed the things that I like to do. There were like 7. I listed them just in alphabetical or random order, numbered them, and then I would roll a dice. I'd roll a die, and I would just do the thing for 30 minutes. So it's like, okay, I'm going to read, I'm going to study languages, I'm going to watch a movie, I'm going to do something for 30 minutes, see if my attention and if I become attached to that. If not, I'll go back to doing nothing. So that's a practical thing that helps. But if you just have no drive whatsoever, it can be very, very difficult. But if you take an inventory of the things that you like to do and you just start doing them, forcing yourself to do them, maybe at first, is something that I had to do personally. But honestly, it's worth it to just have something on the docket for the day. You know, something that isn't wholly practical, something that is something that you like specifically. And I would assume that this is not as big a problem as relationships and the other one that I'm going to talk about, but doing things can be a problem. So let's talk about the final problem, which is lack of outward emotional expression. I have gotten comments on my videos and I've gotten comments in real life that I seem to be pretty expressive. You would not think of me necessarily possibly as being someone who has the outward affect or expressionality, is that a word? Anyway, of a schizoid. I can tell you that when I was younger, for a long time, 15 plus years, I did not talk to anyone. I did not have any outward expression, even to my family, and I was not interested in anyone getting to know me. And it was a defense mechanism to keep people away from me by giving them nothing. Okay? But I have always been someone who feels deeply on the inside. That's not true of all schizoids. Some schizoids do not feel deeply on the inside. I am someone that feels deeply on the inside. So I felt as though maybe at some point somebody would be interested in me sharing that. That's how my writing comes into it. You'll see an emotional depth that maybe would be surprising if you knew that I was diagnosed with schizoid personality disorder. When I record my videos, I script them, I practice the whole thing beforehand, and then I record the video. I am hyper caffeinated. I've used nicotine this morning. I have used an energy gummy. I'm in the mood. It's early, so I have available energy. If you strip me of all of those things and put me in a bad mood and all that kind of stuff, you're going to get someone who grunts as they communicate, who does not pay attention to what you're saying, is not interested, and so on. So it can be confusing. I understand that. As I'm trying to do my best to communicate these problems, it might come across as though I am more expressive than I actually am. But this is a real problem for schizoids. And the problem manifests as other people. When you are by yourself, you can be comfortable not expressing or not having emotions, or them being severely dampened. But if you go out into the real world, people tend to notice, if they notice you at all. Schizoids try very hard to be invisible, but they can't always be invisible. So it becomes a real problem, especially in the workplace, that you have to communicate. It is effective to smile, to have a joke, to ask a question, to give the impression as though nothing is wrong. And once again, that boils down to wanting it in the first place and taking meaningful steps as to cultivate that in yourself. And I think that if you take care of the other things first, the problems of being bored and having nothing in your life and no people in your life, then with me at least, very naturally, my emotions started to come. Somebody else cares about me. Somebody else read what I wrote. Somebody else is interested in the conversation that I'm having. Somebody shares an interest with me. I have something that I'm excited to do after work that's going to fix my shitty day at work because it's okay. I get to go home and do the thing that I want to do, and that gives me greater access to emotions. I don't take medication that helps with that or anything like that. It's just something that came to me naturally. So practicing communication and being observant, just having observations about other people and being interested, even if it's just in a very clinical way, about how am I going to get better with people is tremendously helpful with schizoids. So that's the end of the video. I dreaded making this video because I don't typically edit these. They're very stream of conscious, even though I do script them. But I felt like I needed to live my life and to really observe myself and see how I deal with these problems, them being, once again, relationships, boredom, and disengagement. And I found that it's not overly complicated. It boils down to wanting them to fix them in the first place and breaking them down into simple things that you can approach every day, having a direction, organizing yourself, and so on. It's a work ethic thing. That's what you might be missing, and that's certainly what I was missing as someone with ADHD. And I feel as though I've cultivated those things in myself enough that I'm not very worried about it anymore. My schizoid personality doesn't stand in the way. I would not claim that I'm healed or anything. I just feel that I'm more functional. And I still do struggle with those things, and maybe that could be a video in and of itself, is that I'm doing good with my schizoid personality disorder, but, right, because there's always contingencies and other things that come up and so on. So, yeah, tell me what you think in the comments. Hopefully it wasn't too long. I could talk about autism or ADHD. I have Tourette's. I used to have OCD. I'm a very, what's the word? Comorbid. I have a lot of comorbidities as a person, and I struggle with functionality. So I definitely am not going to stop making mental health videos. I'm going to start making videos of other things. And I felt like I wanted to have a public presence of on an internet presence about schizoid personality disorder because it's the largest problem that I have. And I feel like I've dealt with it effectively. And I just wanted to communicate with people in a meaningful, direct, constructive way as to how I personally deal with these problems. And I don't want you to feel like you're overwhelmed by it. It can feel overwhelming at first, but if you care and you want to solve your problems, and you're purposeful about it, this video gives you a couple tips. I'm willing to give more tips, and you can do it. I don't know who you are, but I believe in myself, and I think that probably if you're schizoid and you're watching this video, even if you just suspect that you have these problems, that you can change and you can have a life that includes the things that you want, a life that's highly improved, that's not filled with boredom and loneliness and a discontentment with a disconnectedness in yourself, between you and the world or you and yourself and so on. That is everything. Thank you for watching.